दोस्तों आज के हमारे मेहमान ही इज द एविएशन इंडस्ट्रीज बेस्ट केप्ट सीक्रेट. वंस यू गॉट इनटू योर कॉर्पोरेट लाइफ यू बिकेम अ फादर, यू बिकेम अ हस्बैंड, यू बिकेम लाइक वो सब लेवल पे आपको
सैक्रिफाइसेस तो देखो करना ही पड़ता. इनफैक्ट एविएशन इंडस्ट्री और आई मैटर फॉर एनी सर्विस इंडस्ट्री, इट्स नॉट जस्ट एविएशन इंडस्ट्री. सर्विस इंडस्ट्री इज 24/7. अगर आप इफ देयर आर 20 पीपल वर्किंग इन अ शिफ्ट तो जब तक वो दूसरे 20 नहीं आएंगे आप नहीं जा सकते.
सो व्हेन यू बिकेम द एयर इंडिया एक्सप्रेस की सीईओ बने थे, so sleepless nights must have been like synonymous part of
life. उसको Air India Express की सारी flight operations are international operations. I mean the departures will start at 8:30 in the night. So till the last departure happens at about 12:30, I'm awake monitoring.
एक जनरल परसेप्शन है कोई भी गवर्नमेंट रन एयरलाइन जरा सा भी गलती होता था तो दे टेंड टू क्रिटिसाइज.
Something that is bad news will always be good news for the media.
कोई प्लेन हाईजैक हो गया या फिर एक्सीडेंट हो गया, आपका जो मीडिया रूम था उसका माहौल कैसा था?
जो मीडिया के रूम जो जिस तरीके से सोचते हैं ना, फिल्म में जो दिखाते हैं वैसी नहीं है लाइफ. हादसा होने के बाद सब एक्सपर्ट हो जाते हैं कि ऐसा होता तो ऐसा हो जाता, ऐसा होता है, पर उस वक्त कोई एक्सपर्ट नहीं होता.
अभी जिस राह पर एयर इंडिया चल रहा है आफ्टर दिस पर्टिकुलर इंसिडेंट, व्हाट शुड बी द डैमेज कंट्रोल?
एयर ट्रैवल इज द सेफेस्ट फॉर्म ऑफ ट्रैवल. अनफॉर्चुनेटली एज आई सेड, मीडिया में one bad incident, one tragic incident gets highlighted out of proportion.
तो जब मर्जर हुआ इंडियन एयरलाइंस और एयर इंडिया का, so was this a corporate strategy था या फिर political compulsion?
It was a corporate strategy and India had to become a world leader in terms of international and Air India. So we needed a larger market. Where it failed was again back to culture.
What happened to these airlines?
Air Sahara, I think, was a flawed business model.
East West Airlines.
Flawed business model.
Jet Airways, Kingfisher also.
All of them.
नमस्ते दोस्तों, मैं हूं आपका होस्ट सतीश सुंदरेशन, वेलकमिंग यू टू yet another exciting episode of the Bhola Bhartiy Show. All I wanted to tell you was a heartfelt thanks for the kind of love, affection जो आप लोग बता रहे हैं towards the show. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, the Bhola Bhartiy Show, please do so. Press the bell icon so that you can get notification every time a new episode is being live. दोस्तों आज के हमारे मेहमान का नाम है मिस्टर शेखर चंद्र कुमार. He is the ex-COO of Air India Express. जो लोग उनको जानते हैं they just cannot stop singing praises about him. But for those who don't know, let me tell you, he is the aviation industry's best kept secret. So in today's episode, we will be talking all about his story. We'll be talking about aviation history and we'll be unraveling a lot of mystery. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Kumar on the show. भोला भारतीय शो पर आपका तहे दिल से स्वागत है.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be on this show.
Pleasure is all ours. Mr. कुमार, सबसे पहले हमें ये बताइए कि एविएशन जो टर्म है, इट हैज़ ऑलवेज बीन अ फैंसी टर्म फॉर एवरीवन. लाइक राइट फ्रॉम द स्कूल चाइल्ड टिल अ कॉलेज गोइंग और even after that, aviation has always been a magnet for a lot of these young. So in your case, what was the reason for you to enter the world of aviation? Is it ambition? Is it because of that magnetism? Or you already had your career goals chalked out?
Well, to be very honest, my career goals were not really chalked out. And it so happened that when I was in InterScience, I was studying in Ruya. And for some reason, my first year science marks were very poor.
Okay.
And my parents wanted me to go into engineering. And even that was probably those days, if you're a science student, that was expected that, that you
it becomes obvious choice.
It's an obvious choice. Whether you want. So I was also looking at engineering as an obvious choice. But what happened was, since my first year science marks were low, I knew that even if I get a first class in InterScience, I may still not get into VJTI or the SPJ college. There were only 2 colleges in Bombay for engineering. So that was practically ruled out. The other option was appearing with the IIT entrance examination, which again is a long shot. So I was at that kind of a crossroads. What do I do now? I mean, if it doesn't work out, then I need to do a BSc. At that time, I saw there was an advertisement in the Times of India for apprentices in the Indian Airlines.
Okay.
So I saw that, and then I asked a couple of my college friends, And luckily, it so happened that I had one college friend whose father was in Air India.
Okay.
So then he went and asked his dad, and then his dad said, yeah, he said, okay, fine. He's saying, if he's already a good student, then maybe not the right thing. But otherwise, he said, like, no harm in trying, but it's a hard life. So I said, fine. At the same time, I was also an aero modeler. That was a hobby. So I said, okay, fine. Maybe, let me give it a try. So I applied for the written test, but I didn't tell my dad. I mean, nobody even knew that, I've applied very quietly. The written test, passed the written test. Then there was an interview. And that time I had to tell my dad. And I can tell you, my dad was not amused. He was not at all happy.
For a career in...
No, that I'm leaving college
Achha.
to get into something about which, like, in the future is very uncertain. Because it's a 3-year training program.
अच्छा वो time पे uncertainty.
Uncertain था because it was a 3-year training program and there was no job guarantee. I mean, the Indian Airline didn't say there's a job guarantee. They only said that after the end of 3 years, you will become a technician. I mean, that's the entry level for this thing.
अच्छा.
So they said you'll become a technician. And then once you become a technician, the airline industry is something where everybody starts at that level. And then slowly you acquire this additional licenses and qualifications. And we start off something called AME1, Aircraft Maintenance Engineer 3 is the lowest level. Then you proceed to AME2 and AME1. But when you're at that age of 18, the future looks very rosy and you're very confident. So I said, Dad, मैं तो जाना है. That's how I got into it.
Brilliant. So, एक बार आप आ गए, okay. So then you got absorbed into Indian Airlines and the rest.
No, it was not that simple. It was a little much more complex. What happened was when this program was started we were the 73 batch.
Okay.
But this program had started in 1971. So we were the third batch. Yeah. Now, when we were in the second year, that means we started out on the 1st March in 1973. So the next batch would have come in 74. For some reason, the training program came to a halt. I mean, the induction stopped.
Achha.
The induction stopped. And by then, the first batch had passed out. See, when we had done, because we were the third batch. So when we entered the second year, the first batch had passed out. And because the whole thing came to a pause and stop, their future was uncertain. I mean, you've done a 3-year training program, but there's nothing, right? So now we were real panicky. What's going to happen? I mean, if this is the future. Now, unfortunately, there was one thing, that there was a bond. Of course, the bond amount it's not a bond so much, it's only 500 rupees bond. But more importantly, my dad would not, he was like, he said, what the hell? I told you, you wasted 1 year of your life. And then, luckily for us, there was a principal training officer. I'm telling you, one of the most outstanding persons I ever met in life. Great. I mean, that's how a principal training officer should actually be in life. He called all of us. And somehow he took a special liking to me. He told me, Chandra Kumar, I know that things have taken a turn for which you're not responsible. And you probably hold Indian Airlines responsible. Which probably yes, and at the same time no. Because these are decisions which, So he said, what I suggest is complete your tenure. I mean, just finish 3-year course, but go back to your degree. Start doing your degree. Now the problem is you can't do science because I've left a science. Now you can't do science part-time.
So 12th के बाद आपने science छोड़ दिया?
Yeah, inter-science. I didn't finish my inter-science.
अच्छा. Inter-science मतलब 10+2?
No, those days it was 11+4. Those days SSC was 11 years. Then the first year science and second year was inter-science and BSc was 2 years. So degree was 4 years. Okay. It was basically totally was 11+4. 11 years of schooling and 4 years of college. 15 years to get your first graduate degree. So then I decided, I checked around and everybody said, and even Sharmaji said, okay, he said, just be a graduate. Don't leave your this thing. So I enrolled in Jhunjhunwala College for a BA. So I got my BA. So by the time, there was another 2 more years to go, but I was able to finish my BA after this, apprenticeship was over. Now, at the end of 3 years, by the time we completed there's an exam, there's a government examination and all that. Now, they came up with a new scheme. They said, you do another 18 months as a trainee technician.
Oh.
And after that, we'll give you a job. By then, I also lost my cool. And my dad was like...
मैं वही पूछ रहा था कि पापा पहले से नाराज थे.
पापा तो नाराज नहीं थे.
अब ये 3 साल का होकर
इसके बाद तो उनका पारा ऊपर ही होगा.
like any other dad.
पारा ऊपर. So I said, Dad, hang on, I'll find something, you know. And my dad was very nice. He said, 21 years, you become an adult. 21. So he said, April 55. 21 means April 1976. He said, April 1976, you become 21 years old. You're an adult. He's saying, I give you 6 more months to find something to do in life. He said, if at the end of 6 months, you haven't been able to find an employment, then I will get you something which within my capacity. May not be to your liking.
Correct.
But you will jolly well go and do it. I mean, at least you will earn.
Yeah.
So I said, Dad, done. I mean, I'll make it a point that by 6 months, kuch to leke aayega, I'll get some. So that time what happened was there was an advertisement for traffic assistance in Indian Airlines, which is basically a kind of an entry-level job. I mean, you don't need to be in the sense that, you know, those days you didn't even need to be a graduate those days. Inter science was good enough. Or even a high SSC was good enough. Because it's an entry level, it's more of a clerical kind of thing, job, you know. So I quietly applied for that. And then of course I went and told Sharma ji, मैं ये कर रहा हूँ. And he knew my condition. He said कि मुझे मालूम है क्या हो गया होगा घर पे. तो इसे बोलता है बेटा आप कर लो. Join तो कर लो and बाद में देखी जाएगी ना. If at all you get a chance to switch over to this thing. But he had also warned me. He said कि it may not be that simple. You know, you get in and then you may not be able to make a switch to technical side. But at least
entry to मिल
गया. So then that's how I got into Indian Airlines as the traffic assistant.
Correct. So that was the entry level.
That was the entry level.
And slowly and gradually you rose to the enviable
No.
heights.
There's another side story to this. It's not that simple because though I got a job in Indian Airlines and all that, at least for the time being, there was peace at home.
अच्छा.
For the time being.
6 महीने के अंदर आपने वो peace
मिल गया. But it's no great career, right? I mean, my dad was a gazette officer. So for him, it's no big deal that you got a clerical job when you could have become an engineer had he followed the track that it had originally suggested for me. So from his point of view, ठीक है. I mean, peace at home. But so now what do I do? So I had to now start doing something. So क्या करें? Obvious choice. What happens is that you can only prefer IAS,
civil services.
Civil services. और तो कुछ कर नहीं सकता है because with only a graduation degree क्या करेगा? So I started preparing for civil services. Now whatever it is, I cleared my prelims twice, but I couldn't clear the mains. Again, call it whatever it is. I have something called a writer's disability. It was a medical condition, which means what it actually means is that I cannot write continuously for a long time. I need to take a break after about 20 minutes or so. I need a 10 minutes break. Now, what will happen in this case is that everybody else is writing and I'm sitting. Now, IAS examination, these are all highly competitive and you need to, and it's essay type questions. So for 3 hours, if everybody is a 3-hour paper, right? So if everybody is writing for 3 hours, I'm not writing for 3 hours.
Every minute is precious.
Every minute is precious. And I'm losing about at least 30 minutes. At least 30 minutes, maybe more. So I try to, I try to sort of apply and, make a application whether I can get extended time. Government said no. You can't get extended time because there's no such provision in the government of India for extended time. Then I said, can I get the assistant of a writer? They said, no, it's a competitive examination. Oh, logically, obviously. Because that means if somebody is writing for me, it's 2 brains working, right? So anyway, long story short, that I couldn't get, I couldn't clear the, and the third time I didn't even attempt because I thought there's no point in it. But yes, but the advantage, that's what I'm coming to. The advantage is that in this process, I learned so much about Indian economy, Indian politics, Indian history, you name it. And I would tell you one thing. It is those 2-3 years that I really worked hard in studying. Till then, there was no studying. It was just, like mugging up to get marks. But this was real studying.
Civil services does that. So, in your case, आपके जो मम्मी डैडी उन्होंने एक आध लेवल पे सैक्रिफाइस तो किया रहेगा in terms of to get you the career that you wanted. But once you got into your corporate life, you became a father, you became a husband, you became वो सब लेवल पे आपको sacrifices का
sacrifices तो देखो करना ही पड़ता है. I'll tell you.
Because the kind of position that you held,
I'll tell you, ऐसा नहीं है. In fact, aviation industry, or I matter for them, any service industry. It's not just aviation industry. Service industry और manufacturing में फर्क क्या होता है? Manufacturing industry is one wherein you go to your factory or wherever it is, You go at a particular time and you come out at a particular time. आपका बिल्कुल फिक्स निर्धारित टाइम है कि सुबह गया, शाम को गया, दोपहर को गया, जो भी है निर्धारित है. सर्विस इंडस्ट्री ऐसा नहीं है. सर्विस इंडस्ट्री इज 24/7. अगर आप इफ देयर आर 20 पीपल वर्किंग इन अ शिफ्ट, तो जब तक वो दूसरे 20 नहीं आएंगे आप नहीं जा सकते.
मतलब 24 घंटा कोई ना कोई मैन करना ही.
हाँ, देयर आर फिक्स पोजीशंस, आपको रहना ही रहना. सो दैट इज वन थिंग. सर्विस इंडस्ट्री में दैट्स वन थिंग. दूसरा क्या है कि एज यू गो हायर अप इन योर in the organization, you are expected to be available at all times. I mean, especially when you become an officer. Officers don't have the luxury of a weekly off. I mean, of course, in the sense, there is a weekly off. I think everybody is entitled to weekly off, one after every 6 days. But it's not necessary that you will get it or you will be able to take it. Sometimes, holidays, they may be a holiday, but if you're called, if there's a work, you'll have to be in
You
office.
have to be available even on a week off.
Even on a weekly off. It's available. That's one thing. And then, so with all that, what happens is, especially when your children are younger, you miss their PTA meetings, unka bacche ka, kya bolte hain, your child is acting in a play and he...
Annual day.
The child wants that, Papa, I'm acting, Birbal ban raha hai, jo bhi ban raha hai. And you're not there to see that. You can't tell the child, मैं नहीं आऊँगा. I'll say, बेटा मैं जरूर आऊँगा, like.
I know.
But on that day, you will not be there. I mean, you know that, but your wife also knows, okay, most likely.
He may not be.
Yeah. So these are small sacrifices that you make at this thing. But the moment higher up you go, it becomes even more difficult, because then what happens is that your children are now, like, in their teenagers. They have expectations that you will go on a holiday. वो भी जाते हैं. Whereas you probably have to say, चलो प्लान तो कर लेते हैं, but we'll see. देखेंगे.
Flight available है, airlines available है, Papa available.
Yeah, Papa, exactly. You might get a seat, but Papa may not be. So airport place, there are times. In fact, there have been times when I have actually seen them off at the airport, and I've told my wife कि मैं अगले फ्लाइट से आ जाऊँगा. हमारा वाइफ बोलेगा नहीं, वो तो मालूम है कि आने वाला नहीं है, हम हॉलीडे करके आ जाते हैं.
But immense sacrifice. I mean,
It is an immense.
Looking back, it looks little, but then only your kids and every kid of a person of your stature can understand what the sacrifice is. Great. So, since you have been at the topmost level, just a couple of fields which I'll be naming it out. तो आप बता दें आपका इसमें क्या contribution रहा है. One is the shaping of aviation policies. जो aviation policies है, जब वो shape up हो रहा था, तो आपका उसमें क्या योगदान था?
हाँ, मैं बताऊँ योगदान के बारे में. एक्चुअली क्या कि जो मेरा बेसिकली क्या था मेरा करियर में, व्हाट हैपेंड वाज कि मैं आई स्टार्टेड एज इंजीनियरिंग. एक तो इंजीनियरिंग अप्रेंटिसशिप था, उसके बाद ट्रैफिक असिस्टेंट था. देन इंटरेस्टिंगली क्या हुआ था कि 85 मतलब आई वॉज ओनली 30 years बाय देन. अब मुझे मालूम था कि 30 years तक तो मेरा करियर तो कुछ खास बड़ा नहीं है, एंड 30 years के बाद किसी गवर्नमेंट जॉब में भी नहीं जा सकता, बिकॉज दैट्स द कट ऑफ, लाइक सो देयर इज नथिंग मच. इन द मीन टाइम आई हैड एन एक्सीडेंट. मेरा एक सीरियस एक्सीडेंट भी हुआ था 85 में, एंड आई वाज बेडरिडन फॉर अबाउट, आई हैड अ सीरियस, माय लेफ्ट काफ़ी सीरियस फ्रैक्चर हुआ था, एंड आई वाज बेडरिडन फॉर 6 months. Took me almost 8 to 9 months to recover. July 85 was the accident, and took me almost April 86 हुआ by the time became this thing. And I'm 31 now. So I had almost decided कि अभी छोड़ के जाना है. End of मतलब अभी अपना कहानी, at least ये भारत की कहानी खत्म होना है. And I did manage to get something in, thanks to some good wishes and all. There was something that I was getting in US. And I'll tell you what I was getting in US, because उस time में तो I was not looking for a job. मुझे I got an offer to bid for the US Post Office on a franchise basis, because the US Postal Department was at that time contemplating giving franchises, and there was a family whom I knew, a doctor couple family, and they were elder. They somehow took some liking to me, and they said, if you want the money, we'll give you the money. We'll give you the fund, we'll fund you. I don't have the money.
But then उसके लिए आपको US settle होना
पड़ेगा.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Settle होना पड़ेगा. So first time I went to US was in 84. My first international trip was 84 में था, and 84 I had met them, and by then I knew IAS वगैरह खत्म हो गया, all stories all over. So I have to look for another chapter of life. We had discussed informally, and 85 I was supposed to go in 85, to file those papers and all that. And 85 was accident, I couldn't go. In the meantime, they had done their homework, they had done their homework, and they probably engaged a lawyer or something. So Princeton campus का जो, that was among the first to be, that was the first to be sort of on the, auction block. So they had kind of, this thing and all that. And the lady, Dr. Mrs. Kamal Shroff, she was an American. I mean, she was basically husband and wife. The husband was a surgeon, obstetrician, what they call. This lady she was a psychologist. And she was a US citizen because she was heading what is called something like, we would call reform centers, where, juveniles, rehab, reform. Yeah. So in the US system, not only juveniles, even adults, there's an adult reformations this thing.
Okay.
So she was heading one of those centers. And so they were able to engage, lawyers and things like that. So they were able to file on my behalf, they were able to file it. And all I needed to was just go to the US, pay up the bond and get it. But it so happened before that, I was all set to go in this October, October of 86. And then that is when there was an advertisement for public PROs, public relation officer. I said, chalo, theek hai. I just recovered from an accident. So let me apply. I applied. And as luck would have it, I was selected.
In
Indian Airlines as a PRO.
Okay.
As a public relations officer. Now came the dilemma for me. Because now my dad said, you are now finally, you become a class 1 officer. And I, who used to believe that the system is not fair, because by then I thought the system is unfair. Because I was seeing that things are not working the way I want to. He said, at least you will agree that you've got an officer's post at an age of 31, which by any standards is pretty good. And he's saying, I'm happy with that. Like in my eyes, you're okay. Like you made a detour in life and all that. But better late than never. Like you're
made up for all the backlogs.
Yeah. So he said, now it's up to you. The call is yours. I thought to myself, and then he said something very interesting, which he had a sense of humor. He had a great sense of humor because this posting was in Delhi. So he said, what's your hurdle? Like, what's the... So I told my dad, I said, Dad, everything is all right, but I just, I was trying to look at the numbers. In Delhi, my take home would be something like 2,300 or 2,400 rupees.
That time.
Yeah, this was 86. So I said, my take home would be about 2,400 rupees. And honestly, I think, I'm fine. I'm feeling, the quality of life that I get may not be, what I'm looking for. But that is very good. Let me tell you, young man, that there are, at that salary or maybe less than that, people who are mid-40s are raising 2 kids. That kind of,
hit you hard.
Hit me hard. I said, yeah, this means I'm very privileged. Something which I knew intuitively, but I was not accepting it.
So US ka loss was
so
more
then
like India ka gain.
I don't know. Anyway, I think... So what I did was, so I said, Dad, yeah, you made your point. I said, that point well made. I said, but at the same time, I owe it to them to go back to go there. I went to the US, met Dr. and Mrs. Shroff, both of them, and I apologized to them. I said, I'm sorry. And they also respected my decision. They said, yeah, Dad. I said, fine, your decision is absolutely right. Maybe in India needs you more than you. And they also said, maybe running a post office is not your cup of tea, not your fault.
You're meant for bigger things in life, running an aviation industry. Correct. So second is dealing with government bureaucracy.
Yeah, now I'm coming to that. Now what happens is, because I was a PRO, so obviously from day one...
Air India.
Indian Airlines.
Indian Airlines
I joined as a PRO in Northern Region. So from day one, my dealing was with... all my dealings were invariably, of course, see, when you say you're a PRO, it's all, right? You have to meet the entire spectrum of all passengers.
So you're more like the face of the brand.
You are, yeah, exactly.
Spokesperson.
I am the spokesperson. So I'm facing bureaucracy, everybody, parliamentarians, all opinion makers, So it comes naturally, like it's part of your job.
So how come the Air India Express came in the picture?
Air India Express is something that came much later. Much later, because again, there's a long story to the whole thing. See, I was in the Northern Region from 86 to 90, I was in the Northern Region. Then from the Northern Region, I was moved into headquarters. I moved in the headquarters, and then somewhere in 93, I became, promotions in government. Indian Airlines was like any other government organization. It's not very fast. There's nothing like fast track. In fact, in the government, there's nothing like fast track in the government of India. There is nothing. It's all time bound, and of course, there's a thing called merit cum selection, but still it takes time. So by 93, by 1993, I was a senior PRO.
Hmm.
And we had a lot of other, there were a lot of other, this thing and all that. Now, in 93, we got a new managing director. There were a lot of changes at top level. So we got a managing director who came in 94. A gentleman, Mr. P.C. Sen, who was from the Madhya Pradesh cadre of the IAS. And that time, the company was going through a little bad time because I don't know whether you would remember this, somewhere in 90, Indian Airlines brand new fleet of 320 was grounded because of an accident in Bangalore and all that. There was a lot of this thing.
Okay.
So because of that, we were in dire financial states.
Okay.
So the management, there was a CMD appointed, Mr. P.C. Sen, and there was a turnaround strategy and things like a lot of that. P.C. Sen was one good thing about him is that he used to encourage
Ideas.
he used to encourage ideas, exactly. He was not that way a typical bureaucrat. He used to encourage ideas, and he used to also encourage, how would I say, even if there was he would say ideas, anybody can have an idea. It's not, he would very clearly say, even it doesn't matter what position you're in. It's immaterial. Ideas are creativities and can come from anywhere. So
Idea is devoid of designation.
Designation, exactly. So what happened was a couple of the interactions when I said something, then a week later, he called up my department head, the PR manager, and told him that I'm asking Chandra Kumar to join my secretariat. Not as a secretariat, but like a core group of 4 to 5 officers from various departments. So I'm asking him to. So I was doing a parallel job of also working with the chairman's office.
Oh.
And what happened there was something very unique. Because of my engineering background, a lot of engineering files that would come to the CMD's office. CMD's office proposals and things. Some of them would get passed on to me. For me to read through the entire, all that and summarize it. Idea was just that he needs a 1.5 page summary explaining what it is all about and why the decision is to be taken. That was a great insight because then that's when you learn management. You actually, it's not what you learn in the books.
Correct.
It's how decisions have to be taken or how a policy. So I got used to how, I got into the nuances of how policy formulation happens at that level.
Oh.
And slowly, of course, then I became a manager in 95. And once I became a manager, then I became a senior manager. Of course, maybe to some extent, yeah, I suppose. I got all those, how do I say, it was kind of a good grooming, let's put it that way. Hard work.
Grooming school for you.
Yeah, hard work, of course.
Correct.
Hard work. It was not easy because very often I would also have to accompany him on his tours. So which means that, you're getting all those files. Sometimes you're getting those files at about 6 in the evening and you have a morning flight at 7 and you're there at the airport. So which means I haven't slept.
So you haven't slept. से ही मेरा अगला सवाल है. So when you became the Air India Express की COO बने थे, so sleepless nights must have been like synonymous, part and parcel.
Yeah, part of life. There was a reason behind it because Air India Express की सारे flights operations are international operations. The departures used to start at 8:30 in the night. So I was based in Cochin. I'll come to that a little.
Yeah.
So the 8:30, the departures are from 8:30 onwards, and the first arrival is at about 6 in the morning. So till the last departure happens at about 12:30, I'm awake, monitoring. And 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, I'm again awake, hoping that, because Cochin has bad weather and things like that, so many things. So it's kind of, I kind of got used to 6 hours sleep. And with my mobile on my by the side.
तो जब आप ये पोजीशन में होते हैं एंड फॉर अ पर्सन जो बोलते हैं ना हु कम्स लोडेड विद सच इंटेलेक्ट लाइक प्लस आपके पास भले आपने IAS IPS क्लियर नहीं किया बट देन दैट ग्रूमिंग इज ऑलवेज देयर. जब ऐसा होता है देन यू कम विद अ सर्टेन सेट ऑफ आइडियाज. आपके मैनेजमेंट दे हैव अ सर्टेन सेट ऑफ आइडियाज. तो ये बोर्ड रूम में ये सब झगड़ा वगड़ा होता था. Ideas clashes.
I'll tell you. This is a little difference between the way the government of India functions and other corporate function. See, in a government of India functioning, ultimately the owner of the company is the president of India.
Okay.
All companies, any company, any company in India, it doesn't matter which company, the owner is the president of India, right? Now the president of India is not going to directly manage the company. So there's a ministry. So when you say there's a ministry, there's a minister. Then under the ministry, there's a secretary of that. And under the secretary, there are additional secretary, joint secretary. So it is a chain of bureaucracy. So the decision making is, there's a particular hierarchy which is followed. Now, when at the board level of the organization, there will be sometimes the chairman and managing director combined, one person holding both the positions. There can also be a situation where there are two persons. Chairman is different, managing director. So at the board level, the policy decisions, whatever policy decisions are going to be taken, they will only be taken with the approval of the administrative ministry. But ultimately, we are all representing all of us are representing the shareholder. And the only shareholder is the President of India. So there can't be a conflict.
Correct.
At the board, there cannot be conflict. There can be difference of opinion on what should be the strategy.
Like a healthy difference of opinion.
Yeah. एक healthy difference of opinion. सर ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए, हमें इसको ऐसे करना है. That's a different. But ultimately the goals are same. We are all working with the government of India. So to that extent, the chairman's is final. I mean, the chairman's word is final and binding. And the chairman, of course, will get his he's reporting to the secretary. So he'll be guided by what the ministry tells him that these are the 5-year goals, the next 5-year plan, whatever it is. So that way it is okay. Where at the board level the conflicts that happen because of operational requirements.
कभी कोई ऐसा इंसिडेंट है जो दिमाग में आता है आपके?
मैं वही कह रहा हूँ. अभी जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल आई एम द चीफ ऑपरेटिंग ऑफिसर. Now what happens that at the chief operating officer level, I am accountable to the board because the board is going to ask me, Chandra Kumar, why is the daily rate so high? Why is the utilization so low? Whatever. I mean, these are operational, KRAs. Let's what we call the KRAs, right? In management. So I'm responsible for those KRAs, delivering those KRAs. So the board has got a right to ask me, why is on quarter and quarter why is this not happening? So now I have to give an answer to the board. One is, why is it happening? And when will it get corrected? Merely by saying that I know why it is happening, the board also knows why it's happening. You're there to ensure that things are set right.
Correct.
So then you have to say, okay, I'll say. Now the question is, I need resources. Now I need resources. Now that is where the board has to agree to the resources. For the resources, unless I'm able to convince the board that I need the resources, things are not going to work out. So it's not confrontationist. It's collaborative. I mean, we are working. That's why I said, ultimately, everybody is working toward the same goal.
नहीं सर, कोई ऐसा इंसिडेंट आपके दिमाग में आता है?
हाँ, मेरे इंसिडेंट में बड़ा अजीब ऐसा इंसिडेंट है. See, what happened is, Air India Express, now I'll come to Air India Express. Air India Express, when I took over, I took over on 10th of February 2011. What happened was that there was an accident. Mangalore में accident हुआ था on 22nd May 2010. Unfortunately, the Dubai-Mangalore flight crashed.
Okay.
And almost, nearly 160 fatalities or something. I don't remember the exact number, but I think there were only probably 8 to 10 survivors. So there was this thing. And there was a court of inquiry which went into the entire accident process and all that. And once the court of inquiry recommendations came, the government realized that there were a lot of operational issues in Air India Express, primarily because it was a subsidiary of Air India. Air India Express was a company. Air India was the holding company. So
parent company
and subsidiary company. So what used to happen was almost all the managing decisions, the operation decisions being taken by the parent company officials without any relevance without probably not being in touch with the ground level realities. There are a lot of other problems. So they said this is not a very healthy this thing. And by then they had 22 aircraft. One, of course. So there were 21 aircraft and 22 aircraft. So the government's problem is that now how do you, if things are going, if things are allowed to run like this, there will be another crash. That was for sure. Because the systems were not being followed. I mean, a lot of changes. Now can you shut down an airline? You can't. So how do you do restructuring? Now for restructuring, you need people with I would not say danda, but certainly a different approach. Dande ki bhi zarurat padta hai, but more than that, you need a different perspective. So what happened was there was a search committee and they picked up some Captain Powner from outside, and he was a pilot. He was an ex-Air Force wing commander, and then he was a pilot with Jet Airways, and he was chosen as the chief operating officer. Now, the day his name was appointed, all hell broke loose. Pura company, this thing, because he was appointed on a salary of 1.2 crores annually.
और वो भी वो टाइम पे.
वो टाइम पे. So anyway, I'm not questioning the decision. That was the board. It was the board acceptance. He's worth that much. But you know how people are.
Correct.
hey, company is running losses and this and all that. So from day one, there was this animosity towards him from everybody, within, outside, inside. See, now there was a background to this thing. So what happened was there was a DGCA committee in 2009. In fact, July 2009, there was a DGCA committee on air traffic. I mean, basically to look at it, how the air traffic will grow and some statistical models and all that. And that is also the think tank of this thing. So I was one of the members of that. And while I was there, during that time, I had come up with a couple of suggestions, which was appreciated because the Director General Civil Aviation later on became the Secretary Civil Aviation.
Okay.
So he knew that I had some out-of-the-box thinking. Because one of the suggestions which I made at the very first meeting, I said, there's something called, we all talk of industrial GDP, each industry, how much it contributes. There was no separate measurement of aviation's contribution to GDP. It was being part of the normal tourism sector. I told him, I said, it's a lacuna. Because if you want funds, if the ministry wants funds, aviation ministry, unless you're able to quantify what is the exact thing, he said, point well taken. Then he asked the Indian Statistical Service, the director. They said, yeah, it's a fact. So he said, what do we do? We need to change but getting a new measurement done in the government of India is a huge Herculean, because it calls for a lot of, anyway, whatever, they got it done. I mean, so we got, so he knew that I am somebody who's able to. And then there was some other things that came up. So what happened? So he, in fact, somewhere at the back of his mind, he had that feeling that, there is this person who probably would, to look at it. So I was asked whether I'm willing to go to Cochin as number 2 to Captain Arora, Pawan Arora, as a number 2. I said, fine. I said, I have no problem. I've handled enough of this thing. So this is number 2. I went as number 2 to him. And I still remember, I think I got a call on February 9th or something. I got a call from my chairman's office, and they said, Chandra Kumar, there's a message for you. I said, what is it? You're being asked to take over. Captain Pawan Arora is being relieved immediately. Orders are being issued. And drive down to Cochin and take over from him.
Wow. Great.
So that's how I took over this thing. And of course, much later, after I retired, somebody, one of the joint secretaries who was earlier in the ministry, he had then become this thing. So he met, बोला, Chandra कैसा रहा? ठीक ना? बोला, सर वैसे तो आपकी दुआ से सब ठीक ही रहा सब कुछ. ये हंसने लगा. बोला नहीं हमारी दुआ नहीं है. बोला आपके बारे में एक ही कहता कि संतरी और मंत्री के लिए आपके लिए बराबर है. आप जिस भी कुर्सी पे बैठते हो, आपके सामने जो भी आता है ना, आपको फर्क नहीं पड़ता है.
Impartial. Beautiful. तो कभी ऐसा कोई जब भी आप इतना सीनियर मोस्ट पोस्ट पे चले गए, तो कोई ऐसा डिसीजन लिया है आपने जो बाद में आपको उसका पछतावा हुआ आपको?
पछतावा हुआ इन द सेंस कि देखो क्या होता है कि जब सीनियर पोजीशन पे समटाइम्स आपको किसी को नौकरी से निकालना पड़ता है.
अच्छा.
There are times when
गवर्नमेंट जॉब में से भी नौकरी से निकालना
पड़ता है. Of course, yeah. Especially and it's very
like hardcore non-performer.
No, hardcore non-performer, or if a safety this thing. I'm giving an example. If it's for example, in Air India Express, the first thing we did, because it was a pilot error. So the day from the day I took over this thing, like we had this thing. So we decided to have a proficiency, call all the people for a proficiency check. Something called a pilot's proficiency check, which is actually part of a standard mandatory thing. Now in Air India Express, there was a lot of opposition to that because people said we've been flying for 20 years or whatever it is. Why should we undergo a check and blah blah and all that. Anyway, those are all. It happens in all organizations. But I was very clear. I said, एक तो proficiency check लाना है. We need to do it. Secondly, there's something called flight safety department in every organization. Now, conventionally, in all organizations, the director of flight safety is a pilot. There's a convention. Most of the airlines follow that. Indian Airlines had a slightly different thing. In our case, in the regions, the director of flight safety would be an engineer. At the headquarters, the director of flight safety would be a pilot.
Okay.
And the regions, it would be quite often, an engineer heading the flight safety, but with a pilot to assist. Not just one, maybe more than one pilot to assist. Because what does a flight safety do? Basically, they are looking at all the record, the digital flight recorder and all those things. So basically, after a flight you're just analyzing the profile and seeing whether everything was, whether the inputs were right, the speeds were right, takeoff and all that. So if you find anything that is wrong in terms of this thing, then you're going to call them and counsel them. That's the way it should be. That's what flight safety is all about. So I said, let's have a flight safety. Let's change the process. Let's have a director of flights. Let's have the person heading flight safety from an engineering division, and assisted by a pilot. All hell broke loose. I stood my ground. I went and told the chairman, I said, sir, hum kya? I said, why are we here? We are here to... So we got this thing done. Now, in that process, we found that some of those pilots were not up to the mark. Found it. So there were a couple of instances wherein I had, wherein we had to say that this pilot, need not, the contract, because, see, Air India Express was on contract basis. Air India Express was on contract. It's not a permanent thing. Every 3 renewable contracts, 5-year contracts.
मतलब आप जो बोल रहे हैं एम्प्लॉइज के लिए
एम्प्लॉइज के लिए, एवरीबडी, सबके लिए वही था. सबके
भले
लिए
वो एरोस्टेस हो
कोई भी हो, पायलट हो, इंजीनियर, सबके लिए 5 years. So when this contract renewable के मैं बोला ऐसे उसे करिए मत करो, don't renew the contract. Don't renew the contract.
हाँ तो by default
by
good boy
default,
बोल देंगे.
of course there was huge, वो तो ठीक है, people can write to anybody, but I was very clear. I said, based on his performance and all these things, we don't find him fit to renewal contract. Achha. Then there was another couple of similar instances. Of course, what happens is when you take these tough stances, people go against you because they think it's a personal thing. There's no personal agenda.
मैं उसी पे आ रहा था. तो जब आप सामने वाले को बोलते हो मतलब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट रिन्यू नहीं करना है एंड पब्लिक वो आपके अगेंस्ट में दिमाग में रखेंगे.
हाँ रखेंगे, वो तो रखेंगे.
तो ये सब चीजों पे आप कैसे हैंडल करते थे?
मैं बॉदर नहीं करता था.
कोई ऐसा इंसिडेंट याद आता है जब सामने वाला कभी आपसे कुछ बोल दिया और आपने उनको समझाया हो?
नहीं, एक्चुअली क्या था कि मुझे अभी भी याद है, 2 यंग, क्योंकि इन फ्लाइंग में क्या होता है, देयर इज समथिंग पायलट्स की जो होता है ना, दे गॉट डिफरेंट ग्रेडेशन ऑफ पायलट्स. सो देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड ट्रेनिंग कैप्टन्स. नॉर्मल कैप्टन होते हैं, ट्रेनिंग कैप्टन होते हैं. अबाउट ट्रेनिंग कैप्टन देयर इज कॉल्ड टाइप रेटेड इंस्ट्रक्टर, TRI. About TRI there is something called type rated examiner. That's the highest category. That means they are the people who are going to examine people, So we had 2 very bright, in the sense bright, really bright people. I think they were in their 30s. I wouldn't name them. Now, all pilots are unionized. They were right. I'm no one to say whether you should be unionized or not unionized. But typically in a contractual employment, that unionization system doesn't really work. Air India was not, because Air India is the government. But in Air India Express में unionization का system नहीं था. So anyway, these people, a couple of them came and told me that, so this thing and all that. And so they wanted somebody wanted change from one base to another base. Everybody, because we had a lot of people in Cochin and everybody wants to come back to Delhi, and too many people from Delhi were and all our flights are in the southern region. We were all, so they said, sir, we were promised when we were recruited that we will get out this thing. I said, see, management is a continuity. So if somebody has made a promise to you 3 years back, I can't say they did not make a promise. Maybe it was promised. Fine. And in all fairness, I should try to, accept that somebody promised you. The question is, but how many people can go back to Delhi? So there has to be a system. And the system has to be very fair and transparent. So I said, there are very well laid down procedures. So the person with the longest service in this base would get parity to go back. Okay. So one group of people accepted that. But the other group of people said, that should not be the criteria, but I'm an examiner, I'm this thing. There should be some special criteria for people, with a higher level of... I said, listen, it doesn't really work that way. Because if you got a higher level of skill, you're also being paid. There's an extra allowances that you're getting. And it's a privilege to have that higher skill, isn't it? You're an examiner. And he said, then I may choose to resign if that is the stand you're taking. I said, feel free. We are a free country. We are a democracy.
Wow.
I said, the President of India didn't come to recruit you, right? The President of India didn't come and ask you, please come. You applied, right? And then he took as a challenge, 3 or 4, about 10 of them, they put in their resignations, thinking that I would not accept. Accept. So I told the HR, I said, accept all of them. And we accepted all of them. But then there was how do I say, everybody knows everybody, somebody knows everybody else, that's how India. So then they said, we never thought that the CEO is going to take it so seriously, हम लोग अपने notice period में. I said, ठीक है, notice period पे तो क्या, notice accept कर लिया ना.
तो ये सब situation में
but what happened, anyway, but to cut a long story short, at the same time, Later on, when the chairman, I met with the chairman told me, Chandra Kumar, at one level you're right, but some of them, can we give a second chance to them? I said, sir, yes. If they write to, especially if they apologize for this thing, I will give a second chance, but they must apologize in writing, saying that, it was a rash decision on their part, and, after this thing, they want to withdraw that. I said, those who are willing to write that, they will accept it. But those who are not willing to write that, they will not. So I think two of them refused to. I mean, their ego was this thing. And they were thinking that political pressure will help them, help this thing. That 8 लोगों को किया तो 10 लोगों को क्यों नहीं किया? मैंने कहा भाई ऐसा नहीं है. जब 8 लोग लिख सकते हैं, 10 लोग भी लिख सकते हैं.
Valid.
So if you ask me, should I have shown mercy? Maybe my wife later on when we were discussing, she said, why did you? बच्चे भी छोटे थे. मैं बोला तो हम सबके बच्चे छोटे होते हैं जब at some time सबके बच्चे छोटे होते हैं.
नहीं, लाइक जो लेवल पे आप थे वो लेवल पे सबका ईगो मेंटेन करके चलना विदाउट हर्टिंग, एंड एट द सेम टाइम यू ऑल्सो ओ योर डिसीजन टू द कंपनी फॉर द welfare of the company.
This is precisely what we were taught at a very young age. That in aviation there is no place for ego. Engineering teaches you this very well. Engineering department teaches you this one very.
Service industry है तो ego रखे क्या ही
मैंने बोला कोई engineering department says कि जितना वो टॉयलेट का जो क्लीनर है ना उसका भी उतना ही AME है जितना engineering AME 1 है. AME 1 का लाइसेंस AME has to certify the aircraft, लेकिन टॉयलेट अगर साफ नहीं हुआ ना आप एयरक्राफ्ट सर्टिफाई नहीं कर सकते.
हर किसी का अपना अपना महत्व होता है.
So nobody should have an ego here. बड़ा क्लियर है. एंड दैट इज द वे आई लुक्ड एट लाइफ.
तो ये सब जब भी आप बोलते ना, मैं ये नहीं बोलूँगा लेफ्ट राइट सेंटर डिसीजन ले रहे थे सही, लेकिन सही समय पे जो आपको सही लगा इन द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ द कंपनी आप जब डिसीजन ले रहे थे तो आप पे कभी यूनियन या फिर पॉलिटिकल प्रेशर नहीं बनाए रहे?
पॉलिटिकल प्रेशर और यूनियन प्रेशर क्या होता है? सी पॉलिटिकल एंड यूनियन प्रेशर भी यस दिस आई टेल यू व्हाट हैपेंस इज द यूनियन पीपल विल कम एंड मीट. आई हैड एन ओपन हाउस. मेरा बड़ा क्लियर था कि ओपन हाउस था. ओपन हाउस इन द सेंस दैट I was always shuttling between Bombay, Delhi and Cochin. और मैंने clearly लोगों को बोला था कि whenever I'm in Cochin, you can walk into my office.
So you were accessible to anybody.
Completely accessible. And not only that, if I'm landing
and a person of your level, na?
I was very, very clear. I said very, very clear. You can always meet me. I will give you a patient hearing. But that does not mean that I'm going to take a decision in your favor.
Brilliant.
कल को ये मत बोलना कि साहब मैं CEO साहब से मिल के आ गया हूँ. जरूर CEO साहब ने मिल लिया. CEO ने सुन लिया.
मैंने सुना मतलब हामी भरने का जरूरी नहीं. बरोबर है. करेक्ट. सो जब भी आप बोलते ना ये मैं नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, बट देन एक जनरल परसेप्शन है कि सरकारी एयरलाइन है ये वो, जब सोशल मीडिया पे ज़रा सा बात का बतंगड़ बना देते हैं वो लोग, तो वो टाइम पे शायद सोशल मीडिया का उतना बोलते हैं ना प्रोमिनेंस नहीं रहा रहेगा, बट देन लोगों का एक परसेप्शन होता है, एक नज़रिया होता है, देखने का एक ओपिनियन होता है. तो वो टाइम पे जब सरकारी कोई भी गवर्नमेंट रन एयरलाइन ज़रा सा भी गलती होता था तो दे टेंड टू क्रिटिसाइज. तो वो टाइम पे आप बिकॉज यू आर मोर और लेस द स्पोक्स पर्सन या फिर द फेस, हाउ डिड यू हैंडल दैट सिचुएशन?
आई विल एक्सप्लेन टू यू. आई विल गिव यू अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल. क्या था कि बिकॉज आवर इंडियन एयरलाइंस का मेजर कॉम्पिटिटर वाज जेट एयरवेज. They were a major competitor, right?
Private में तो वो leaders थे.
Private में leaders थे. They were leaders, and then they will. I mean, like, okay, now compared to the Jet Airways and Indian Airlines, when we looked at it, their aircraft were modern. I mean, like, I'm not saying we did not have modern. Our A320 was equally modern, but the way the brand was projected, the projection of the brand, had a different projection of the brand. So, like, so and they would say कि Jet Airways में, flights are more on time. Now, what happens is flight on time it depends on the network. हमारा 4 bases है. We got 4 bases, 4 different. So our networks are different. So maybe our on-time performance was not this thing. But otherwise, in terms of service, I think Indian Airlines service was as good as Jet Airways. And people, especially in terms of our business class, J class, Indian Airlines was as good as Jet Airways. There's no doubt. And people used to accept. But in terms of media, what was happening was, as you rightly said, there's always this perception that Indian Airlines sarkari hai, so things will, it will not be that. There'll be something less. Because government, unfortunately, the average Indian tends to equate government with inefficiency. That's how, एक perception है कि सरकारी में कुछ नहीं होता है. It's not that. what happens is, सरकार में system है. There is a system in place in any सरकारी office. Even if you go to municipal department, municipality में भी जाओगे, वहाँ पे there's a system in place. The priest. And if the system is followed, and if everybody follows the system, things will work out very well. Deficiency नहीं आएगा. The problem comes when people don't follow the system. उसका भी again होता है. One is the training that you give to the people. The aviation being an industry where training is always part of it. Since our training standards are much better, so system will get followed. But despite that, media. See, now I'll tell you because I've done my journalism, so I know why from the media's point of view, something that is bad news will always be good news for the media.
Ironically,
yes. Yeah. Ironically, if there's an accident or something that is a mishap, it makes headline news.
अगला दिन का stop press करके headline बनना ही बनना.
And same with the channels, because it's all and of course, आज के दिन the TRP has become a major issue. But even in those days, channels had to have viewership. So therefore, from the media's point of view, anything that was negative tend to get highlighted, tend to be highlighted. So I still remember, and I was for a moment, for some time, and in fact during the crash of this thing, I was in charge of the media. I mean, during the the crash, Air India Express crash I mentioned, I was heading the media division of Indian Airlines, or the combined Air India. I was heading the COPCOM division, but it was called COPCOM. So I had a lot of friends in the media. I told them in the media. I said, see, I have nothing against you people, but always also try to balance your story. Don't don't always look at only the negative aspect of it. There are certain positives also that happen. But yes, in terms of ultimate coverage, आपको जो बुरा है वो याद आएगा. From even from a reader's perspective. रिकॉल जो है ना, रिकॉल वैल्यू जो है ना, हमेशा बुरे का ही ज़्यादा रिकॉल जल्दी आते हैं. अच्छा जो किया वो रिकॉल बाद में आएगा, का शायद आएगा भी नहीं.
तो आप जब भी आप मीडिया को हैंडल कर रहे थे, मीडिया इज जस्ट 50%. बाकी का 50%, सोचो फॉर एग्जांपल हम क्रैश का ही बात ले लेंगे, बाकी का जो 50% बचता है, यू बिकम रिस्पॉन्सिबल और पीपल होल्ड यू रिस्पॉन्सिबल. कौन लोग पता है, ये जो जिनके फैमिली मेंबर्स क्रैश में मरे, तो वो कितना टफ होता था आपको. एक तरफ में मीडिया आप पे प्रेशर है, सेकेंडली उन लोग के बोलते ना नजदीकी कोई किसी का देहांत हो गया, या फिर उनको पता भी नहीं है कि वो मर गए.
हाँ, नहीं पता तो मर जाते नहीं. व्हाट हैपेंस इज एक्चुअली ये जो सारे जो आई टेल सी व्हाट हैपेंस, किसी भी एक्सीडेंट जब
एंड यू आर एट द सेंटर,
या किसी भी एक्सीडेंट होता है ना, व्हाट हैपेंस इज देयर इज ऑफ कोर्स द क्राइसिस मैनेजमेंट टीम ऑन ग्राउंड. बहुत सारे लोग होते हैं टू आई मीन ईच अफेक्टेड फैमिली, बेरीड फैमिली का एक मेंबर, कम से कम वन स्टाफ मेंबर इज डेडिकेटेड फुल टाइम उनके साथ होता है टू हेल्प देम थ्रू द प्रोसेस एंड ऑल दैट. All that is over, I mean, all the cremation, whatever has happened. The problem starts with the claim process. क्योंकि जो claim process होता है of getting the compensation, that is a very elaborate process. A lot of documentation required. And even if you are well educated, it is still not easy to get. It's a very lengthy process. Now, for example, in the case of Mangalore crash, almost, let's say 80% of the people were laborers working in the Gulf. Now their families are not that well educated enough to understand the legal implications and all that. So what happened was a couple of these American lawyers, I think they were basically out of US and some other country. They came and the agents came and got these people to sign wakalatnamas, saying that each of you will get 1 crore or whatever it is. I mean, you will just sign the wakalatnama, and it may take time, but then whatever it is, we'll take. I mean, we'll take X percentage, and the rest will come to you. But at least 1 crore सबको मिल जाएगा, and all these poor people fell for that, and a lot of them signed. Now, but when the actual insurance compensation started coming, they calculated based on certain listings. So for most of them were getting around 25 to 35 lakhs is the compensation that was coming to that. Now, when from the family's point of view, it's a huge difference. कहाँ 1 crore बोला किसी ने और आप बोलते हैं 35. Now they hold whom responsible? Airline. कि airline ने पैसा देना है. Ultimately, it's not airline. It's the insurance. अब insurance के अंदर क्या होता है? Any insurance this thing, there is a discharge certificate. You have to give a discharge certificate. उसके बाद पैसा नहीं मिलेगा. Check will not be issued to unless you pre-receipt. I mean, not only discharge, pre-receipted. So these poor people were told very clear. Said नहीं आपको people they are fooling you. Once you sign on that and give it, पैसा कुछ नहीं आएगा. So there was a huge hue and cry and all that. And we were all going at the wit's end. So finally, I and my finance chief. So then we finally said, okay, I said, एक काम करते हैं. Because there is a final date before that. If you don't, then you can't further claim. There's a last date for filing claims. Before that you go to, and that was fast approaching. एक महीने बचा हुआ था. But sir, अभी भी बोलते हैं 50% से लोग ज़्यादा फाइन नहीं किया. Plus somebody wanted to go to the court and all that. I said, ठीक है. So what we decided was, I briefed the media that on Mangalore, that I am going to come to Mangalore because most of they were staying. I said, I'm going to come to Mangalore on a particular day. I will be available in the Mangalore city office. I said, I will be there available and they can come and meet me. And when I went there, it again was a very interesting thing because a lot of security people and all like this. So I saw this. I said, hey, क्या कर रहे तुम लोग यहाँ पे? बोला वो भीड़ आ जाएगा. काय का भीड़? सर आपको मालूम नहीं है ना? I said, nothing doing. I said, I have deliberately come here and I have come at a time when it is after office hours. I said, 4:30 बजे बंद होता है ना ऑफिस. हाँ, I said, no problem. I said, जो भी आएगा उनके पास, I mean, there's an identification, right? बाहर जो outside, check the identification and allow them to come inside. I said, I don't need anybody from security in and around. I sat with them and I told them, I said, I speak Malayalam. I said, I speak English, I speak Hindi. And I said, I can understand maybe a little bit of Kannada or anything. I said, whatever questions you have in mind, please feel free to ask. I will give you the answers to the extent possible. And if I can't answer, I will definitely tell you this. I'll give you my phone number. And I say, call me after 2 days. I will respond to all your queries. So the first and foremost, I told them, I said, first of all, I said, you must have trust. I said, you must believe that we are fair and that we are. Otherwise, I said, I wouldn't come.
Correct.
Then उन्होंने पूछा कि सर लेकिन क्या होगा? I mean, I said, इससे कुछ खतरा नहीं है. Please sign the discharge certificate. जो आपको मिलना है वो तो मिलेगा. Court, I said, court has a separate issue. I said, you can all go to the court. I said, just because, I said, your discharge is only for the insurance. All you're saying is insurance से आप further claim नहीं करोगे. Court आपका अलग separate दायरे में है. And touch wood, I think...
very, very apt and rational and impartial way of, जिस हिसाब से आपने handle किया था situation. Beautiful.
And people believed me.
Sir, आपके, one of the पुराने, मतलब second या third episode में एक असिस्टेंट कमिश्नर आए थे पुलिस में से, मुंबई पुलिस के. तो उन्होंने वही कहा था, उनसे भी हमने यही सवाल किया था कि जो पोजीशन में वो थे, इंसिडेंट एक्सीडेंट कभी भी हो सकता है, तो इनको कॉल आता ही रहता है. टेकिंग क्यू फ्रॉम देयर, आप वो पोजीशन में थे जहाँ पर आप मीडिया के लिए एक्सेसिबल होना आपका KRA में आ जाता है.
एब्सोल्युटली अनिवार्य है.
हाँ, तो ये अनिवार्य है. करेक्ट. तो एक तो इंडियन मीडिया के हिसाब से वो आपके टाइमिंग के हिसाब से इट्स ओनली नेचुरल. लेकिन जब आपका रात का टाइम था तो वो टाइम पे फॉरेन मीडिया का वो दिन का टाइम था. सो दे वुड हैव कॉल्ड यू ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम. सो मतलब इंडियन मीडिया के लिए भी आप अवेलेबल थे, फॉरेन मीडिया के लिए भी आप अवेलेबल थे. तो वो आपका फैमिली लाइफ या फिर एज अ इंडिविजुअल लाइफ आपका डिस्टर्ब नहीं हुआ कभी?
होता है, बट दैट्स पार्ट ऑफ द जॉब. आई मीन दैट्स
नहीं, मतलब अगर आपका नींद नहीं होता है तो यू डोंट बिकम इरिटेटेड. हाँ, वो हिसाब से
you cannot be irritated. See the point in that's the whole thing.
नहीं, कभी कोई ऐसा इंसिडेंट हुआ है जब कोई मीडिया वाले ने कॉल किया एंड you are not in that frame of mind to give a proper, you are also human being at the end of the day.
I have had a couple of experiences wherein
we would love to hear how you handle, because that will be an inspiration to
I have had a couple of experiences wherein I got woken up at about, I think, 6:45 or something, and I had just gone to sleep at, maybe I think I had slept at about 3 o'clock. 6:45 there was a call from
3 घंटे का नहीं
foreign media. And here the person announced him and said, I'm calling from so and so, news agency, and I am out of. So I said, yeah, and my voice was it was very clear from my voice, that it is like a नींद से उठ के आया बात कर रहा हूँ. So I said, I know I should be answering your call. However, I said, is it okay if I can call you back an hour later? And I said, it's 6:45 in India, and your time is probably, you are ahead of me, so you're probably, it's noon for you. But can I call you back in an hour? He said, yeah, sure. People respect you. What I'm saying, see, media also understands. Let's look at the other business. See, because journalists also, they also know. They're also human beings. So if you are truthful, they understand that he's not bluffing.
Correct.
But if I lose my temper, how dare you call me now? then it's going to be on a wrong start.
And you're rubbing media the wrong way. सर जब भी कोई आप बता रहे थे कि saying that you were the spokesperson or you were the face of the airlines, जहाँ पर मीडिया को आपको फेस करना था, जहाँ को जो विक्टिम्स है उनके रिलेटिव्स फैमिलीज को आपको फेस करना था. तो कभी बोलते ना जो आपका जो मीडिया रूम था, कोई प्लेन हाईजैक हो गया या फिर एक्सीडेंट हो गया, उसका माहौल कैसा था? इट वाज लाइक एवरी मोमेंट यू हैव टू बी केयरफुल. हम तो पिक्चरों में देखते हैं, हम सिर्फ सुने हैं, बट आपने वो जिंदगी जिया है, तो उसका हर एक पल कैसा था?
मैं आपको बताऊंगा, जो मीडिया के रूम्स जो जिस तरीके से सोचते हैं ना, फिल्म में जो दिखाते हैं वैसी नहीं है लाइफ. मैं बताऊंगा फॉर एग्जांपल द मोस्ट फेमस दिस थिंग इज IC-814 जो खटमंडू से जो हाईजैक हुआ था, खटमंडू दिल्ली फ्लाइट विच वाज हाईजैक्ड, जिसके पास वो काफ़ी मूवी भी निकला, कंदाहार वाला जो जिसको हाईजैक ले गया था. नाउ फॉर एग्जांपल उस टाइम जब शाम को जब हमें पता चला, आई थिंक प्रॉब्ली मे बी अराउंड 7:30, little around 7:30 when we came to know that the plane had been hijacked. And those in the media relations team, हमारा काम ही शाम को शुरू होता है because our interaction with the media starts only in the evening, before the close editions, right? So we are all used to working late. I mean, most of the time we would be, and I was probably then a senior manager. So we were, and that suddenly this call comes. In fact, the call came from the media. Has one of your aircraft been hijacked? And then then suddenly we started this thing, and then before we could, then the whole government machinery works in and all that. Now there are different levels of emergency meetings. I mean, there are certain emergency responses. There's a particular response. Something happens at the government level, something happens at the ministry level, something happens at our level, the airline level. So there are different rooms where this thing is being done. Now, for briefing the media, there's a certain protocol that we are all trained in. And nobody would brief the media unless we are very sure of the facts of the case. So even if it's a hijack, unless we got a confirmation that it has been hijacked, we would not be able to say yes, it has been hijacked. Then again, what are the details that they're going to the brief details and this thing. And so, for example, the passengers list. If you remember, I don't know whether you would remember those days. There was a lot of misinformation on the whole. There were a lot of theories about who was hijacked it, what hijacked, and all that. It calls for a lot of basic idea is that be cool, don't be in a reactive mode. Be very, very cool, be very composed.
मैं ये इंटरव्यू ये पॉडकास्ट की शुरुआत में हमारे दर्शकों को बोला था, यू आर एविएशन इंडस्ट्रीज बेस्ट केप्ट सीक्रेट. सो आपका एक बहुत अहम रोल था ये कंधार इंसिडेंट,
इसमें
नेगोशिएशन वगैरह.
मेरा अहम रोल ये था कि क्योंकि ड्यूरिंग डे टाइम
जो बहुत लोगों को पता नहीं है, और हम चाहते हैं ये पॉडकास्ट के मीडियम से लोगों को
रोल ऐसा था कि क्योंकि जितने भी विक्टिम्स के फैमिली, जो भी पैसेंजर्स थे जो हाईजैक हो गया, खंडार में चला गया, उनके जो फैमिलीज थे वो सारे आके दे वर ऑल दिल्ली एयरपोर्ट पे, लिटरली दे वर कैंपिंग. रिलेटेड बिकॉज दे एवरीबडी वांट्स टू नो ना कि क्या होने वाला है. खंडार चला गया एंड दे वर ऑल कैंपिंग. सो वहाँ पे हमारी पूरी सीनियर ऑफिसर्स वर देयर, अ होल मैनेजमेंट टीम वाज देयर, ट्राइंग टू सॉर्ट ऑफ keep the, how do I say, because आंसर तो किसी के पास भी नहीं है कि कैसे सुल जाएगा, how will this hijack play out. So but basically trying to sort of keep their morale up, reassure them that the government is working. उनका वो काम था. कुछ मीडिया भी वहाँ पे थे, channels वगैरह, a lot of the media channels, because that is where the story is, and it's a breaking life story. But there is also a briefing which has to be done from headquarters, which is a regular briefing which, उसमें भी ज़्यादा हम क्या बोल सकते हैं, उतना ही बोल सकते हैं कि But there was one requirement that international media, they would be calling up only in the night. Mostly in the night for follow-ups. And somebody has to be there in the night. So I was the designated officer till the hostages were released and the aircraft came back. I was the designated officer for the night shift.
Okay.
Throughout the night, I was, and there was a direct line. Because the PR director's office has an access international, both, inward and outward. So we are able to dial back. If we have to dial back, we can always dial back. So I was there, manning the phone. And what happens is that because I'm in the night, it doesn't mean that next morning I can just go home and take off. No. Because I'll be awake the whole night. Next morning, I'll just go home, take a bath, refresh myself, have breakfast, and then again come back to office. Because I need to know the day's developments.
Correct.
Because I need to be abreast of the day's developments. I mean, I need to, through, of course, the channel. As I said, government has got a channel. I mean, I will get my information from the managing director in turn. But I need to be very abreast and updated throughout the day. And then by the time when everybody winds up, I'm in active mode now. That, okay, now this. And I also have to keep maintaining a diary as to who's spoken what, who said what. So that, when there's a follow-up story, somebody says, I called you yesterday. I should be able to recollect, what he spoke. And I can't trust my memory. So I need to, write notes. It's, how do I say, it is no amount of training can, you can be trained in theory, but no amount of this thing. And actually, it's only when you actually are in, when you face the situation, then automatically from within you, आपका, energy, you get energy.
Correct. तो ये IC 814 को जो जितना तक हमने पढ़ा है, it's available on the.
It's available. हाँ, उसके वो, in fact, वो
web series भी बना सब. तो you must have seen that. तो everything जो दिखाया गया है, I'm not taking that as a reference because that's only possibly one of the few available documented ये. तो is that exactly the way it had occurred या फिर you, since आप वहाँ पर थे, आपने पूरा witness किया था, ऐसा कुछ बता सकते हैं जो उसमें नहीं बताया और जो actually में हुआ था?
Actually देखो, कोई भी जब फिल्म बनाता है, फिल्म उसमें थोड़ा ड्रामेटाइज किया जाता है. ड्रामेटाइज किया जाता है, something. But more or less, I think it is to a large extent.
They justify.
They justify this thing. But how so? What happens actually? क्या होता है कि see, the issue is that after the event has taken place, everybody is an expert. हादसा होने के बाद सब एक्सपर्ट हो जाते हैं कि ऐसा होता तो ऐसा हो जाता, ऐसा होता है. But उस वक्त कोई एक्सपर्ट नहीं होता है. Everybody, in a way, everyone who is involved in the decision making process, we are all learning. It's part of a learning process. बाद में we can say कि नया system बनाना चाहिए, and we did it. In fact, the entire aviation security protocols changed after 814 hijack, but उसके पहले there's a different protocol being followed. So it's a learning curve.
Correct. So अब फिलहाल since we are talking about जो हम एयरलाइन इंडस्ट्री में टर्बुलेंस बोलते हैं, अभी फिलहाल आज के तारीख में टर्बुलेंस बहुत देखने मिल रहा है, नॉट जस्ट वन पर्टिकुलर एयरलाइन बट एविएशन इंडस्ट्री एज सच. तो अभी जिस राह पर एयर इंडिया चल रहा है, ओके, आफ्टर दिस पर्टिकुलर इंसिडेंट देयर आर ऑल्सो बैक टू बैक 2-3 और भी टेक्निकल फेलियर्स हो रहे हैं. तो आपको लग रहा है व्हाट शुड बी द डैमेज कंट्रोल? अगर आप अभी ऑन ड्यूटी रहते तो व्हाट कुड हैव बीन हेडिंग एयर इंडिया, तो आपका डैमेज कंट्रोल?
Let me explain. See, what happens is aviation industry is the safest form. Air travel is the safest form of travel. Statistics can prove that. I mean, there are enough statistics that it is the most safest form of travel. Unfortunately, as I said, media mein one bad incident, one tragic incident gets highlighted out of proportion. And not just in media, because today we are talking about social media also. Now, social media is a bigger evil because everybody says, if I put something on that, this is like a peg, it's a news peg. I get my, my likes and I get more views because I've got onto the peg. So there's a lot more self-style experts, a lot more disinformation coming, riding on the back of an unfortunate incident. That's one. And there's another aspect to it. See, Air India today is a much, much bigger airline in terms of network, in terms of fleet than what it was, let's say, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. It's a much this thing. So when you've got a larger scale of operations, आपका exposure भी global है. Global exposure. So what happens is even a something we should have normally not made media headlines, suddenly there's a sense of fear. It gets into headlines. So I think, honestly speaking, if I were, this thing, all I would want to say is that, reassuring the people that there are systems in place, that there are processes in place, which are very robust. They're robust places. Just, just because one fatality, one accident, and they land and wait for the outcome of the inquiry.
And I think Air India is in the process of reassuring.
They're reassuring, and see, ultimately, every accident shocks all of us. We're all shocked.
Correct.
It shouldn't have happened. I mean, it shouldn't have happened. But let's wait. Let the accident investigation, let the investigation come out with the exact causes. Wait for it, and then that's the only thing. So it's more of believing in the system and trusting the system that.
So sunny days are definitely
Absolutely
will be back in Air India.
Absolutely.
So आपने एक बहुत अहम मुद्दा उठाया था सोशल मीडिया का. आज के तारीख में अगर आप सोशल मीडिया चालू करोगे ना, यू जस्ट टाइप एविएशन या एरोस्टेस, सो बहुत सारे ऑन ड्यूटी एरोस्टेस या फ्लाइट स्टीवर्ड्स होते हैं. अभी उनके पास वो एरोस्टेस है. फॉर अ कॉमन मैन विदाउट अ टिकट उनका एंट्री तो मिलने नहीं वाला, बट देन दे आर एम्प्लॉयज ऑफ पर्टिकुलर एयरलाइंस. उनका तो एंट्री मिल जाता है. सो वो लोग ऑन ड्यूटी चालू होने से पहले वो लाइक्स और व्यूज़ के लिए वो लोग बोलते हैं टुडे इज़ माई फर्स्ट डे, अरे दिस इज़ हाउ माई. ये ठीक है, वो बच्चे लोग कर रहे हैं, लाइक दे आर स्टिल इन देयर यूथ. बट डोंट यू फील द फ्लिप साइड इज वो एंटी सोशल एलिमेंट्स को एक इनसाइट दे रहे हैं भाई देख फ्लाइट का अरेंजमेंट ये है करके.
I would say more than antisocial elements, the problem here is, understand that if I have an access to an airport, it's part of my duty. As an employee, my loyalty at all times should be to the employer. I'm being paid for it.
Super.
I'm being
Perfect.
paid for it. That is why I'm there, right? So I would say that if I'm using it to flaunt, or post something real, in my mind, that's actually not. It's not morally. It's completely ethically wrong.
On all levels.
It's wrong at all levels. It's wrong at all levels. And that's one thing. The second aspect of it is also a question of privacy. Because in that process, you're often filming other people whose privacy you're violating.
You're invading their privacy.
Invading the privacy. I mean, like, if I'm, if I'm passing by and somebody is recording a reel and I'm in the frame, it's actually violating my privacy. And it's a public place.
Correct. Public domain में बरोबर है. Correct.
So there are a lot of, what I'm saying is there are a lot of, and then the biggest danger is because of artificial intelligence. These videos can then be, tailored, altered to something to have a narrative which is totally different.
जो इन्होंने expect भी नहीं किया.
It's a very dangerous trend. It's a very, very dangerous trend. I personally feel that, and I feel quite sad about it, that people are not realizing the, long-term implications of this. I mean, I don't know.
No, this
all I
needs
can say is
to,
that,
kind of balance. Let me just clarify one thing from the team of Bhola Bhartiy. देखो हमें कुछ आपत्ति नहीं है. We are not against these people making reels for likes and but what जो सर ने clear cut बोला है, saying that these are the parameters. आप किसी का प्राइवेसी इन्वेड कर रहे हो, लाइक आप अपना रील बना रहे हो लेकिन पीछे से पता नहीं कौन क्या प्राइवेट का किसी का भी प्राइवेसी काई के लिए इन्वेड करना है. दैट इज़ वन थिंग. प्लस ऑल्सो सर ने जैसा इन्होंने बहुत क्लियरली मेंशन किया है, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस इज कदर दैट हैज़ इन्वेडेड एवरीवन्स प्राइवेसी दैट आप सोच भी नहीं पाओगे बाबा ये जो आपने रील शूट किया ये किस कदर टेलर मेड करके प्रेजेंट करते समय कोई अलग ही प्रेजेंटेशन किया जाएगा जो आपको भी बोलते ना शॉक में डाल देगा. सो बेटर अवॉइड. I mean, we have nothing against you guys, but then I'm just a request, just better avoid all that. Sir, अब हम कुछ साल पीछे चलते हैं. 2005 का बात है. मर्जर के पहले इंडियन एयरलाइंस का नाम आगे चलकर उसमें से एयरलाइंस ड्रॉप कर दिया गया, इंडियन बना दिया, विच वॉज वेरी अप टू द मार्क, परफेक्ट इन ऑल द एस्पेक्ट्स. इसका कोई ठोस या खास वजह था? एक वजह जो बोलते ना अगेन रिसर्च में उभर के आई है वॉज अ सर्टन IPO at that time. So since you are an expert in that domain, तो was IPO one of the reasons इंडियन एयरलाइंस में से एयरलाइंस को ड्रॉप करके सिर्फ इंडियन नाम से आगे बढ़ना?
IPO was not one of the reasons. In fact,
IPO was not even the
It
reason.
was not even the consideration.
Okay.
It was more a felt need to sort of rebrand the airline.
Brand positioning.
a brand positioning, rebranding, make it this thing. So they said Indian Airlines, they need to rebrand it. It was more of a rebranding strategy and a rebranding exercise, and a repositioning, let's put it that way, I mean, that was the whole idea, to have a more vibrant logo.
Correct.
To that extent, that was the whole idea behind it. And also at that time, we were getting a new fleet of Airbus A319, and an entirely new fleet was coming. Till then, we were
New
Airbus.
experience altogether.
Yeah, so they wanted to rebrand that. It was a rebranding, part of a rebranding exercise.
What did Indian Airlines do right जिसका उसको अभी तक credit मिला नहीं है?
Well, what we did right is actually throughout all the crises that we've had, there was always a conscious management effort, to ensure that the morale is kept high, always. And that is not something that is very visible, it doesn't really, I'll give you the first example. For example, as I mentioned earlier on, in 1990 when the 320s were grounded, 14 aircraft were grounded for almost 9 months. Even though the court of inquiry had clearly said that it's the pilot's error and all that, but there was a little fear because it's a new type of aircraft, So, fear among the pilots, fear among the people about a new technology and a lot of things. So it took some time before the aircraft, came back and all that. But then we lost about 200 crores. And in the 1990,
और वो time पे 200
crore is wiping out your
staggering amount.
Yeah, it's a staggering thing. And any other airline would have collapsed. And they were like 93, 94 and those times, So we had a company-wide program where we actually, I don't think today's generation even understands. In those days, there was this small slides. There's the small slides, and there used to be a carousel machine. So which means that if you want to make a sound, if you want to make an AV, AV meant essentially making, those small slides in 24mm, 36mm format, putting it into a slide projector and manually switching from one slide to another. And the audio was recorded separately on a tape recorder and, projected. So we made this thing. And I actually physically went around to the different airports, major stations. We used to have these during the lunch hours so that we're not losing productivity. And it was about a project, maybe a 20 minutes presentation. And I was open to questions.
Wow.
On behalf of the management, because I'm the senior PRO. I'm able to answer questions. Not only that, for the lower level staff, those who don't speak English or Hindi, we had somebody from local staff translating it into their language.
Super.
So these are all basically, all it's not only communication, morale building, team building.
Everything is hand in hand.
Everything is this thing. And that later on, that same thing program got upgraded to something called Parivartan, which was a 2-day training program. We covered about 11,000 employees on the network. Out of 23,000 employees, 11,000 employees, all of them covered for a 2-day workshop. And all of it cost money. And money at a time when money was scarce. What I'm saying is, it is not that it was a luxury we could scarcely afford, but when we put priority, we prioritize this corporate culture building program, confidence building, call it confidence building. That's very important. For all this, I don't think anybody ever gave much credit to the management of Indian Airlines. They thought another Sarkari company. It's not just another Sarkari company.
That was till the time this episode has been shot. Now moving on, definitely.
So that's why I say
people who have been the backbone will be credited for this.
That's what I'm saying. Management is a continuity.
It's not about boasting, but then that's the power of media, a podcast, like more specifically Bhola Bhartiy types. Sir, what legacy did Indian Airlines carry, which say airlines like Air India could not?
Yes, again the same thing. Because Indian Airlines, since we were operating primarily domestic. Now, when we say domestic, when we talk of Indian Airlines, India is as big as Western Europe geographically. Just look at it. If you travel from Arunachal Pradesh northeast to western, this thing, basically we could even have 3 time zones. Sunrise there starts at 3:30.
Yeah.
So it's such a vast thing. That is the connectivity that we were providing. So we are, I would say that our people are more rooted, more connected, more rooted to the ground, The Indian Airlines people are more rooted to the ground. Now, obviously, when your resources are stretched so much, your facilities which you provide on infrastructure will be probably little not the same as the international. So Air India had an advantage of always having international routes, and therefore the level of service was pronouncedly different. It was a kind of a different level of service in Air India. But the difference is, I think I would say Indian Airlines was more rooted to the ground. We are, I think, let me put it this way, I would say we are हम सारे आम जनता के साथ जुड़े हुआ है. I put it very colloquially.
Correct. That means Indian Airlines was doing their job while Air India was doing
उनका international.
to each his own.
Yeah, each its own. Different segment. Basically different market segments. Let's put it that. Completely different market segments.
So जब merger हुआ Indian Airlines और Air India का, so was this a कहते हैं ना corporate strategy था या फिर political compulsion?
It was a corporate strategy.
Okay.
Corporate strategy was absolutely right because the market was growing and India had to, we had to become a world leader in terms of international and Air India. So we needed a larger market. I mean, definitely the hub and spoke model and things. It's a very good corporate strategy. Where it failed was again back to culture. Culture in the sense what? Because the DNA of Air India is different. It's an international airline. The passenger profiling is different.
So हम जो कुंडली में गोत्र बोलते हैं.
It's a bit like saying कि दो अलग-अलग गोत्र के लोग हैं. Yeah, correctly. We would say कि शादी हो गई गोत्र मैच नहीं हुआ.
Correct. अगर people like you who have kind of contributed in making Indian Airlines the airlines that it had been, अगर इंडियन एयरलाइंस आज के तारीख में स्टैंड अलोन पोजीशन में रहेगा, सो डू यू फील जो हिसाब से कंपटीशन है वुड दैट बी इन अ पोजीशन टू सस्टेन एंड बिकम अ लीडर?
I don't think so. I don't, because the thing is in aviation industry में you need huge capital investment. आपको capex बहुत चाहिए होता है. And the larger you are in terms of market, and if you got it's not just the market. For example, the combined Air India, it's a large. I mean, what I'm saying, as an airline, it's big. It's big. It helps. A larger network always is helpful in the long run. Yeah.
Correct.
I still maintain the strategic decision is perfectly right. Strategic direction is right. Implementation probably could have been done differently.
So what do you feel went wrong besides the implementation?
The culture mismatch. Because what really happens is that whenever, at any individual level, everyone is worried about their next promotion. Will I get my next promotion? Or will I get higher, this thing? So when you do a merger, there are a lot of seniority issues. Who's senior, who's junior? How do you integrate it? And a stage came, and plus the salary structure was different. See, there was a difference in salary structures in between the two airlines. Air India had a different salary structure, Indian Airlines had a different salary structure. So again, when the merger took place, people from Indian Airlines felt that their salary got lowered, which is very true because I know distinctly, I remember that after the merger, I mean, we had announced a 25% cut in salaries. So which means that my net take home actually fell by 25%.
Not just you, everybody
in Indian Airlines.
तो कोई ऐसा इंसिडेंट याद आता है जब आपके इंडियन एयरलाइंस का एम्प्लॉय आपके पास आके रोया हो या फिर व्हाट डिड यू डू?
मैंने उसको बोला भाई मैं अपने पीएफ से पैसा निकाल के मैंने खुद लोन ले लिया, अभी तू भी लोन ले ले.
सर जब हम
क्योंकि अगर आमदनी कम होगी तो खर्चे कम करने पड़ेंगे. आई मीन देयर इज नो अदर ऑप्शन, राइट?
करेक्ट. वो टाइम पे कोई आए थे आपके पास, सर इतना में नहीं परवड़ेगा तो हम जॉब छोड़ दें क्या? बिकॉज यू आर मोर लाइक अ मेंटोर टू लॉट ऑफ पीपल.
जॉब छोड़ने का सवाल नहीं था ना. देयर इज नो अल्टरनेटिव. आई मीन
गवर्नमेंट जॉब
नहीं, एविएशन इंडस्ट्री में इतनी जॉब्स थे नहीं ना.
ओके.
नॉट इनफ जॉब्स, राइट? सो
सर जब हम मर्जर की बात करते हैं, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ फैक्टर्स जो हम कंसिडर करते हैं. आई एम नॉट टेकिंग साइड्स, बट डू यू फील दैट द पीपल एट द टॉप दे फेल्ड टू लुक इनटू दिस?
I don't think it is failure at the top. I think the failure is more the middle management level.
Okay.
Middle management level. Because what happens is the people at the lower levels, they really don't interact with the senior management. Most of the time your interactions are with the middle management. And I always tell this to people, it doesn't matter which industry. In every industry, there are 4 pillars. Fairness. I call it FIT. F-I-T-T.
F-I-T-T.
F-I-T-T. F stands for fairness. I stands for integrity.
Okay.
T is trust, and the next is truthfulness. Now, these are 4 pillars. The entire management stands on these 4 pillars.
Beautiful. Wow.
So, if your middle management doesn't practice this, if your senior management doesn't insist on practicing this, the system will slowly lose trust. And the moment you're down the line, frontline employees, they lose trust in the management. Kisi bhi org, it doesn't matter. Whether it is a 1 crore industry or just having 5 employees, 10 employees, 100 or 10,000 employees, this principle is the bottom line.
You are somebody जिन्होंने ये प्रिंसिपल को इतना बोलते ना बांध के रखा है. कोई इंसिडेंट याद आता है जो कोई आपका एम्प्लॉय ये 4 पिलर में से कोई एक पिलर उसका शेकी लग रहा था, तो आपने कैसे डील किया? वो मतलब क्या इंसिडेंट था?
क्या इंसिडेंट मैं बता रहा हूँ. बिकॉज क्या होता है हमारा वी गॉट हम लोगों का है ना व्हाट वी कॉल टाइम बाउंड. आई मेंशन ड्यू के टाइम बाउंड प्रमोशन होता है.
करेक्ट.
So we came up with a rule that, I mean, earlier, for various reasons, what happened was, earlier it was 6 years for the next, from one level to the next. उसको हमने 4 साल कर दिया. That, in 4 months, I mean, in 4 years, we'll this thing. Now, it so happened that there were 2 cut-off periods because there was some complaint that, otherwise what happens is somebody who joins, let's say somebody who joins in February, they'll complete their 4 years later, right? So they'll have to wait 1 whole year for the next promotion. So let's do it on 1st of July. So like them, it's okay, ठीक है, एक 1st July को करेंगे, एक 1st January को करेंगे. So this person is February में, like, उसको मिलेगा. Now the issue is, though it is time bound, you need to have a clear, I mean, what you call your appraisals also need to be matching. Appraisals need to be matching. So this is one part of it. There is an other part of it is that somebody with less than 4 years also, I mean, let's on the borderline, 50% of them can also be given that. They can be considered. Like,
they become eligible for it.
They become eligible, yeah. I mean, if there's somebody outstanding, then you say, okay,
out of turn.
I mean, you're getting 6 months ahead. Let's say he saw her turn would come in the next cycle. Next cycle, and they would, this thing. Now, it so happened that there were 2 cases wherein there were some charges against them. Okay. There were some charges against them. There was there's something called vigilance. We have something called vigilance clearance, which is required for every promotion. So in 2 cases, the vigilance clearance did not come. The vigilance clearance did not come, and then whatever it is, the files were put up to me. I mean, I was part of I was part of the committee. So they said, sir, इन दोनों का vigilance clearance आया नहीं है, तो उसको अभी हम लोग, we'll promote them. I mean, no, it's not that simple. The files had to come. Now, what happened was, at the APA did not, last year's APA did not come. Last year, the previous year APA आया नहीं मेरे पास.
APA मतलब
annual performance appraisal.
Performance appraisal.
So that is supposed to be part of the proceedings.
APA,
Annual performance appraisal. That's part of the proceedings.
Okay.
So that's part of the proceedings, and otherwise, without that, you don't really do this exercise. So that did not come. So I told the HR person, I said, what about इसका इन दोनों का क्यों नहीं आया? बोला सर आया नहीं है. तो हम पिछला 2 से करते हैं. Whatever पिछला 3 average कर लेते हैं. I said नहीं.
No means no.
I said average. I said इसका मतलब you're being unfair to the people जिसके 4 APA आया.
Very true. Very true.
Then I found out, I mean, I suspected that somebody is trying to, favor them. I mean, these things happen, Things happen.
Correct.
So we said very clearly कि भाई जब तक AP नहीं आएगा, and then I had my own back channel. I called the vigilance, बोला कुछ inquiry, तो बोला हाँ बोला inquiry हमने चालू किया है. But we've initiated that. But अभी वो process में है. So they were basically trying to bypass that.
Correct.
So
that brings me to my next question. Is there or are there any apologies you owe to anyone during your airline days?
If at all, apology only to my wife. Because
and rightfully so.
And because I would say she's borne the brunt of it. Na?
I know.
She's borne the brunt of it. I mean, no holidays. Or rather, no planned holidays.
Bobby?
No planned anniversaries. No planned anniversaries.
Correct.
बच्चों का बर्थडे प्लान नहीं किया.
सर, बच्चों के बारे में बात करें तो ये बहुत ज़रूरी सवाल आता है कि करियर के बारे में, लाइक जब आपने स्टार्ट किया था तो तभी एयरक्राफ्ट मेंटेनेंस इंजीनियरिंग वो टेक्नीशियन लेवल के तभी एविएशन इंडस्ट्री ओपन अप हो रहा था. आज पायलट्स हैव बिकम लाइक पैसा है तो भाई पायलट बन जाएंगे. लेकिन बहुत सारे बच्चे लोग को जिनको पायलट बनना है, इंडिया में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कम है, जो लोग फॉरेन में जाके उनका CPL जो कमर्शियल पायलट लाइसेंस और PPL प्राइवेट पायलट लाइसेंस के लिए फॉरेन जाते हैं, या फिर फॉरेन का वो चकाचौंध देखकर फॉरेन जाते हैं? इंडिया में उतना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं है
इंडिया में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, फर्क इतना ही होता है कि व्हाट हैपेंस इज कि इंडिया में ऑफ कोर्स पीपीएल इट्स नॉट सफिशिएंट, यू नीड अ सीपीएल.
CPL?
What will happen is इंडिया में सीपीएल का the time taken for a CPL in India is a little long, थोड़ा ज़्यादा है. Whereas if you go abroad, you can probably do it faster.
ओके.
But let me tell you one thing, सिर्फ सीपीएल से काम नहीं होता है. बच्चे लोग ये चीज़ समझते नहीं, people don't understand that when you do a CPL, that's only the basic. You still need to do something
Entry
called type
level.
rating. Yeah, you need something called type rating. मतलब you have to decide whether you want to fly the Boeing 737 or the A320. So you do a type rating. After type rating, then you have to wait for a job. And you join as a first officer, as a trainee pilot, trainee co-pilot, whatever they call it. It's a long haul. I mean, there is no shortcut. And most importantly, flying is one, whether you are in engineering or flying career, you have to keep on upgrading yourself. There is no end to learning. आपकी learning कभी खत्म नहीं होती है. And there are exams, refreshers every 6 months, medical tests every 1 year.
Oh.
Yeah, you got to be medical. There's a medical, compulsory medical every year. You got to be, it's not all fun. It's a lot of hard work. It's lots and lots of hard work.
करेक्ट. तो मतलब you mean to say that इंडिया में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, but then the waiting process is
Yeah, we don't have enough flying schools. हमारे पास इतने अच्छे, I would say there's definitely a shortage of good flying schools in India.
okay.
Which of course now the Tatas after the Tatas have taken over, they are going to have an own flying academy. They are in Amravati, they have signed up a deal and they're going to have their own internal training, which is what most of the major airlines do. They've got something called a cadet pilot training program. They take in
Jet का भी था ना?
Jet had a different cadet pilot program, but which was outsourced. In the case of Air India, it will be completely in-house.
Sir, quickly, this is not a rapid fire, but then quickly, since you have been there, done that, people who love aviation, उनको एक दिमाग में एक बात हमेशा घूमता रहता है कि ये सब, मैं जो भी एयरलाइंस का नाम लेता हूँ, उनका अल्टीमेटम क्या हुआ है, व्हाट हैपेंड टू दीज एयरलाइंस. सो वायुदूत करके एक एयरलाइंस था.
Vaidut.
So what happened to वायुदूत?
Vaidut was basically a small airline mainly meant for the northeast. वो northeast का routes के लिए, it was supposed to be doing for the northeast के लिए चाहिए था.
Okay.
And then they expanded too fast. I mean, they went into all over India. Not sustainable. Network was not possible to sustain. They had 18 seat.
They should have just stuck to that particular specialized.
Yeah, they should have stuck to the core northeast.
Air Sahara.
Air Sahara, I think, was a flawed business model. Very flawed business model. They
It's
did
a
not
big
have
statement to make. And East West Airlines.
East West again airline flawed business model. These are all flawed business models.
Okay. And there was Skyline NAPC.
All of them. I'll tell you why I say flawed business model, because this is an industry wherein your operating margins and gross margins are very, very low. And your cash flows, or let's put it this way, the entire industry works in cycles. So out of 12 months, your air traffic peaks only for 6 months.
Okay.
The remaining 6 months, you will probably end up with negative cash flows. क्योंकि maintenance तो चल रही है. Aircraft maintenance has to keep, one engine goes for repairs, you'll be completely out of budget. So maintenance is something you can't defray. I mean, 6 months to chalna hai, salaries,
There's
everything
no
else.
compromise.
Everything else. What I'm saying, all your cash expenses are going to be incurred every month on month. So if you are not able to manage your cash flows, you are not going to be able to recover from this.
Doomed is the word.
Doomed is the word, yeah, absolutely doomed.
So-
That's why it's a flawed business model.
So Jet Airways, Kingfisher also.
all of them.
सर, ये क्वेश्चन मैं वर्ड टू वर्ड पढ़कर पूछना चाहूँगा आपको. ओके. जिसका मैं चाहता हूँ आप इसका क्लैरिफिकेशन दो, बिकॉज यू हैव बीन देयर एट द सेंटर. सी, देयर वाज अ न्यूज़ जहाँ पर बोला गया था कि इंडियन एयरलाइंस के 200 एयरक्राफ्ट्स ग्राउंडेड थे या पार्क्ड थे, बिकॉज कारण ये बताया जा रहा है कि स्पेयर पार्ट्स का प्रॉब्लम था, और ऑल्सो एडिशनल देयर वाज नो प्लान. भाई हमने एयरक्राफ्ट खरीद लिया, करना क्या है पता नहीं है. वन, बहुत सारे प्लेन्स ब्रांड न्यू थे जो उड़ाए नहीं गए थे. इस कदर न्यू थे कि वो जब भी हम नया गाड़ी लेते हैं जो प्लास्टिक भी ना, तो आप जो ग्राउंडेड प्लेन के अंदर भी जाओगे वो प्लास्टिक का स्मेल आता. मतलब इट वॉज लाइक स्पिक एंड स्पैन न्यू. तो ये कितना सच है, और अगर ये पूरा गलत है तो भी बता दें. सच है तो किस लेवल तक ये, बिकॉज दिस विल बी एन आई ओपनर टू लॉट ऑफ पीपल.
ये बिल्कुल गलत गलत न्यूज़ था. इसके पीछे काफ़ी आई वुड पुट इट साजिश, बट मैं आई विल नॉट गो इनटू किसकी साजिश थी, ये तो मैं नहीं बताऊंगा.
नहीं पता नहीं, ये जो बोला है मैंने वो सही है.
अब आपने जो बोला सही है, बट उसमें 200 जहाज नहीं थे. इंडियन के पूरे जहाज 200 जहाज कभी भी नहीं थे.
अच्छा.
आज इवन टुडे आई थिंक एयर इंडिया और इंडियन मिला के भी शायद 200 जहाज नहीं है.
ओके.
तो वो तो बिल्कुल
सो मतलब फिगर्स गड़बड़ है, बट जो
गड़बड़ है.
सिचुएशन
वाज डिफरेंट. सिचुएशन ऐसा था कि 2005, ये तो 2005-2006 की बात है, कि हमारे पास लीज्ड एयरक्राफ्ट थे. इंडियन एयरलाइंस के पास वी हैड लीज्ड एयरक्राफ्ट, क्योंकि वी हैड ओनली वन टाइप ऑफ लीज. 320 हमारे थे, तो हमारे 320 कम थे, तो वी हैड टेकन सम एयरक्राफ्ट ऑन लीज. साथ ही साथ हम लोगों ने नया फ्लीट एयरबस 319, जिसके मैंने पहले जिक्र किया था, दिस वाज आल्सो बीइंग इंडक्टेड. सो दोस वर द न्यू एयरक्राफ्ट, द 319 दैट आर कमिंग. नाउ what happens is leased aircraft, when you are leased, उसके conditions होता है when you return it, you have to return it to particular condition. It's called condition monitoring. आपको particular restore you have to restore the aircraft to the same condition in terms of engine at which you brought in the lease. So there's a cost to restoring the aircraft. Now क्योंकि Delhi was the base, northern region में Delhi was the base, Palam Airport, all the 320s. So obviously the aircraft were parked on the, I mean, जिसको दिखता है कि 11 एयरक्राफ्ट खड़े हुए, 12 खड़े हुए, 13, 14, 15, 16, they are all standing. Apart from that, those days what happened was, for some unfortunate reason, because हमारे भी fleet old थे, we had more engines, engines के, because ultimately it's all engine, right? Aircraft has got engines. So there was an engine shortage. Engines की shortage थी, because we had our own engine supply. I mean, we had our own jet engine overall shop. It was full to capacity. उसकी capacity complete, like it was running to full capacity, and there was an engine shortage. Now what will happen is, you can get engines on lease from outside, आप बाहर से खरीद सकते हो, but it is not cost effective. if आपका you got your this thing, so what would you do? You would wait for your shop engine from your own shops to come. So it was a management decision. एक management decision था कि ठीक है, stagger it, basically cash flow management. As I said, it all boils down to cash flow management. How do you conserve your cash, not blow it up? And as far as new aircraft is concerned, nobody is foolish enough to keep a new aircraft on ground. वो fly करेगा ही करेगा.
मैं जब मेरे सवाल बना रहा था, ये मैंने कहा ये पूछना ही पूछना है आपसे, बिकॉज क्या है, जो एग्जिस्टिंग नॉलेज को रखे पब्लिक, तो फिर वो इमेज बन जाता है. आई थिंक दिस मस्ट हैव clarified the question that many wanted to ask but did not know whom to ask. So sir has given us the answer. Sir, Indian Airlines का एक भी पहलू सामने आता है कि बहुत सारे डिलेस, भले ऑन टाइम था, ओके, मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द फ्लाइट्स वर ऑन टाइम, लेकिन जो भी डिले होता था उसका किधर ना किधर ये VIP डिग्निटरीज या मिनिस्टर्स, उनके प्लेन बोर्डिंग तक वेट किया जाता था, विच इवेंचुअली प्लेन को डिले हो जाता था. तो ये इसमें कितना सच है, या फिर
वो भी सच नहीं है? वो भी सच नहीं है. सच इसलिए नहीं है बिकॉज व्हाट हैपेंस इज, जो भी एयरक्राफ्ट फ्लाइट है, इट इज एवरी एयरक्राफ्ट आफ्टर ऑपरेटिंग अ पर्टिकुलर, क्योंकि हमारा इंडियन एयरलाइंस इज ऑल इंडिया नेटवर्क, सो विच मीन्स एन एयरक्राफ्ट विच कम्स फ्रॉम बॉम्बे टू दिल्ली, बॉम्बे से दिल्ली के आगे कहीं चला जाएगा, इट विल फ्लाई टू समवेयर एल्स, राइट? सो इफ यू डिले वन सेक्टर, इसका
ऑटोमेटिकली,
yeah, so at every level the effort is to maintain that delays are minimized. That's one. Secondly, what happens is, we have a system in the airline industry that there is when you have something called chalks off to chalks on, we call it block time. I'm talking of any particular sector.
Yeah.
I mean Bombay, Delhi, or even anything. So there is a block time. I just give an example of Bombay, Delhi, just to sort of it become. Now if it is 1 hour 20 minutes or whatever it is, but on the schedule it will probably say 2 hours departure arrival.
Okay.
That's a buffer. That buffer is for taxiing, congestion, this thing. So what will happen is, when you say a flight is being delayed, or let's say somebody says minister, often लोग बोलते हैं minister last में आया, मंत्री आने तक wait किया. What's happened actually is that everyone else is on board. It is just that the minister has the last to board. But ultimately departure say it won't, because what I'm saying is, there's a perception that flight has got delayed. It is not that the flight has got delayed. The buffer is there. We use that buffer.
So maybe as you rightly said, शायद उसके लिए वो जब भी एयरपोर्ट में रहते तो ETA लिखते हैं, expected time of
that is for delay. I mean, one is the schedule. Let's say a flight is supposed to leave at 9:05. So that is a scheduled departure. Now if for whatever reason, if the incoming aircraft is delayed कि incoming aircraft 15 मिनट लेने आने वाला है. So instead of 9:05, we'll say 9:80 expected time of arrival. ETA is expected time of arrival of the incoming aircraft. ETD is expected time of departure. Then we say ETD. So if it is incoming aircraft is 15 minutes delayed, we say outgoing aircraft can be 15 minutes delayed.
So I think another myth got busted. So ये जो मिनिस्टर्स पे आप लोग ब्लेम करते रहते हैं उनके कारण डिलेड नहीं होता है. सो सर आई बिलीव हैज क्लैरिफाइड इट. सर बहुत सारे जो पोजीशन में आप थे सीईओ के, प्लेजर तो था ऑफ फ्लाइंग, प्रेशर भी साथ में था. सो एनी वन पर्टिकुलर प्रेशर जो आपको लगा यार ये पोजीशन मैंने नहीं लेना चाहिए था, या शाम तक या कल सवेरे तक मैं मेरा रेजिग्नेशन दे देना चाहता हूँ?
As a CEO Air India Express, मैं इतना सारा प्रेशर लिया. I took so much of pressure that one fine morning, I still remember that, when I was talking to my wife, and she actually literally, I could make out that she's holding back her tears, because I was I was in Kochi.
Must have been a moment.
And what happened? There were a couple of times when I took a flight. I told my wife in the morning, कि आज शाम को dinner में I'll be, I'm coming to Delhi. I'll be home for dinner. And after leaving the ministry, and we had to rush to Bombay for a meeting. So we, I just took we all went in, I, chairman, everybody. We took the flight, the 8:30 flight to Bombay, and we landed in Bombay. And at the airport, I told her, I said, I'm not coming. मैं Bombay जा रहा हूँ. Then, she says, वापस कब आओ? I said, मुझे मालूम नहीं, I'll tell you. And it happened more than once. And then I thought to myself, because that was the time and I was nearing 58, and I could have continued up to 60. So she said, ऐसे ही चलेगा अगला 2-2.5 साल? Is this the life? I said, no, ऐसा नहीं चलेगा. I said, I'm going to put in my papers. And I kind of, because that was the time when I realized my family need, after that, when will I,
Correct. Now that you're retired, you're living a peaceful life, leading a stress-free life. If you look back at the tenure of your glorious career in the skies, what do you miss the most, sir? Do you miss the skies? Do you miss the chaos? Do you miss the tension? Do you miss the pressure in which you were working?
I would say camaraderie, yari ya dosti.
Kya baat?
I think for us it was more of yari and dosti. It was fun to work.
So, before we wrap up the wonderful show for the day, एक पूछना चाहूँगा, जो भी young aspirants हैं, जिनको for whatever positions that they apply, is there one word of advice and one word of caution that you want to tell them?
The word of advice to anybody entering aviation industry is what I go back to again, my principal training officer. He said attitude. ATTITUD, attitude. There's something in the aircraft, it's called attitude indicator, which is a very crucial instrument, which shows whether the aircraft is, at respect to the horizon, whether you are stable, we are moving up. And if that fails, the aircraft will. So he said that is the most important thing in your life.
Super.
Attitude indicator. Keep it always even, keel, and positive. At any level. That's the thing. And second is that always be prepared for the unexpected. इस इंडस्ट्री में just because I have put in 20 years or 30 years, कोई कह नहीं सकता मैंने सब कुछ देख लिया या मैंने सब कुछ सीख लिया.
Every day is a new day.
दोनों गलत है.
Superb. सर ने तो कॉम्प्रोमाइज़ नहीं किया अपने वैल्यूज़, अपने प्रिंसिपल्स पे. सो व्हाई डू यू वांट टू कॉम्प्रोमाइज़? जस्ट लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब टू द भोला भारतीय चैनल. सर, ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ द एंटायर टीम ऑफ भोला भारतीय, थैंक यू सो मच. आपने अपना कीमती समय निकाला हमारे लिए, तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ.
Thank you, Satish.
Yeah.
It was wonderful participating in your show. I enjoyed every moment of it.
Pleasure is all ours, sir. Thank you so much. And what are you waiting for? All that you need to do is like, share and subscribe to भोला भारतीय चैनल. Till the time हम अगले एपिसोड में और एक वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पर्सन, वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट गेस्ट के साथ मिलेंगे. तब तक के लिए दिस इज सतीश साइनिंग ऑफ. नमस्ते, जय हिंद.